Wallace and Gromit's former nemesis, Feathers McGraw, is out for revenge and vengeance most foul, this time by sabotaging Wallace's most recent invention, a sentient garden gnome named Norbot, so he can once again steal the blue diamond. I'll admit I was more into Chicken Run and Flushed Away as a kid than I was Wallace and Gromit, but now that I'm older and can appreciate the more quiet physical comedy these guys are known for, and having loved Aardman's last project, I went into this movie fully prepared to say that it was better than Curse of the Were-Rabbit, and had this movie not gotten in its own way, it easily could have been. Now I'll say this, if every stop-motion movie was animated as fluid as Vengeance Most Fowl, and were so bright and vibrant in their colors compared to the more muted brown-scale stop-motion we get recently, I think there'd be more stop-motion movies to appreciate, and audiences would be more willing to check them out. The slapstick in this moves a mile a second with so many contraptions that complete one task of Wallace's to the next that if this was made by anyone else, it could have looked so slow and choppy, but director Nick Park, decades later, still puts so much painstaking effort into timing every pratfall perfectly. And especially nowadays, there's so much potential to use Wallace's contraptions as satire on our over-reliance on technology that they definitely try and tackle. In my opinion, they failed at it, but I'll get to that later. The characters themselves are charming to watch too. Ben Whitehead's voice work as Wallace is so great that you could have fooled me into thinking that after all these years, it was still the original guy. I was surprised to find out that he's only the second actor to ever play him, and as always, Wallace's cheerful, optimistic nature, even when things are at rock bottom, is the reason you identify with him, but because he's recently spent more time inventing than spending time with Gromit to the point where he seriously built a robotic arm to pet Gromit so he doesn't have to. Really wish I was making that part up. Does set up a legitimate conflict between the two of them. With the simple raise of an eyebrow or tilt of a head, you feel as ignored as Gromit does, but he never loses sight of the fact that Wallace's heart is always in the right place, so when Norbot starts ruining their lives, Gromit does everything he can in order to support him and clear his name. The scenes between Gromit and Feathers are easily the best and the closest in spirit to the original cartoons because since they don't talk, you're always in suspense over what it is they're doing, when they're going to take their next step, and where it'll lead the story, especially with Feathers, who, because he only has one expression, goes back and forth from being genuinely creepy and funny within the same scene. And there are so many clever bits ranging from him picking up litter in his own zoo cage like he's doing community service, using the dumbest trash items in order to escape, and my personal favorite where he hacks Wallace's computer and one of the security questions is the moon made of cheese? Fucking brilliant callback, even if you don't know it is. Okay, so this all sounds fine and good. You might be wondering what it is that kept Vengeance Most Foul from being a good movie for me, and the main issue I had with it is, as opposed to focusing on the slapstick scenarios or the rivalry between Wallace and Gromit and Feathers, who really isn't in the movie all that much, there's a lot more dialogue than there needed to be, and it's used for the absolute wrong reasons. I said earlier that it tries to satirize and commentate on our obsession and the dangers of modern technology, which, again, there was potential to do in a clever and subtle way. But I don't know whether it's because Netflix was in charge or the writers at Aardman seriously think we're too dumb to understand the message, but half of Wallace's dialogue exists just to hit you over the head with the most on-the-nose lines like, "Oh, the machines are doing everything for us now, Gromit, we don't have to do anything, isn't that great? Do you not trust my inventions? What could possibly go wrong?" Especially when Norbot is clearly becoming more evil, and of course Wallace is too oblivious to notice, which you expect, but I'm not even kidding. Wallace literally even says, "What could possibly go wrong?" Like, that's how on the nose it is. It's as forced and painfully obvious as watching Wallace try to make a pot of tea without an invention, and I'm sorry, I don't care if it's a cartoon, I don't care if you think people are getting that dumb. Watching Wallace push a tea kettle lid like it's a button was insulting, and it was downright mean-spirited, which is not what I want from a Wallace and Gromit cartoon. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a bad message to put in a movie, especially one for kids, but it has to be done in a way that doesn't downright insult their intelligence. You already had moments where Wallace notices the Norbots are becoming more evolved than anticipated, which is why he ends up getting scared, but the second they do something to cheer him up, he instantly forgets. So it's not like you couldn't have communicated this message in a more subtle, nuanced way that's closer in spirit to the original cartoons. But no, like every movie before, and let's face it, every movie after this that commentates on technological advancements and AI, it takes itself so seriously like it's the first movie to say any of these things, and it's not. It's the exact same lesson in the same words over and over again, and it's not a bad message, but if you're gonna treat the audience like they're idiots and dumb down the message for them, they're less likely to listen because they can tell that they're being patronized. This movie's commentary on police misconduct is nuanced compared to this, which, Yeah, say that part out loud. Fucking Wallace and Gromit decided to commentate on that. And I would like to point out that making all cops of all genders and races as equally capable is more empowering and closer to reality than making one gender and or race as dumber and more corruptible than others, like this, the very stereotyping they claim to be against. No, wait, I just did. I really wanted to like Vengeance Most Fowl, and all the ingredients are there. The animation is top-notch, the voice acting is decent, and you obviously can do a message like this in Wallace and Gromit, but it doesn't feel like a Wallace and Gromit movie. It feels like an after-school special that happens to have the characters. So sadly, 2025 has started off with stale crackers and spoiled cheese, which is a better analogy than half the shitty puns in this. And with that, guys, thanks as always for watching. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of Vengeance Most Fowl. Judging by the reviews this is getting, I'm probably going to be alone on this, but it happens. Be sure to like and subscribe, check me out on Patreon and buy me a coffee, and stay tuned for more reviews. Take care.